In this video, we discuss how to go about doing GPS tracking. So GPS tracking involves both the mobile application that's being used by the workers out in the field and the desktop application we're looking at now. So the GPS locations actually come from the WorkWell mobile app. So when your workers out in the field, they're at their job locations or traveling between them, whenever they log in to the WorkWell mobile app, their GPS location is uploaded to our database up in the cloud. And the mobile app continues to do that on a 5-minute interval. So every time the person logs in, and then 5 minutes thereafter, it reports GPS locations. To access these GPS locations and to view them on a map, and also to do GPS tracking, we use these two icons here at the top, the eye and the cogwheel. Click on the eye to actually display the GPS locations, and click on the cogwheel to do some setup. We'll get into that in a second. So we see that upon clicking on the eye, the star popped up down below. So this star represents the last known location of the worker. When we click on the star, we get some information that pops up. We see that the worker is Adam White. We see when the GPS sample was taken. It was at 4:26 in the afternoon. And the address is listed. So that's a very handy way to see where your workers are currently located. So let's look at how we've configured GPS viewing by clicking on the cog icon. We see that we had selected employee Adam White for GPS tracking. Any of your employees could have been selected. And we see that we've selected this checkbox, check only the last GPS location. And that's why we see only the last location marked. If we unselect this button, we can do tracking more than just the last location. We get a number of options that are revealed to us. So let's set up some tracking. We'll continue to look at Adam White, and we'll choose a date range. We'll change the date to today, and let's track from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So this will be the time frame, the start and end time frame for which we'll do tracking. And we'll save this. So now when we click the eye icon, we get a track of all the locations throughout that time period. We had selected 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, so these are all the GPS locations for that afternoon. So notice that the most recent location is still the star. In all previous locations that afternoon are the smaller circle with the W in it. And click on any of these to get a little bit more information, like who the worker is, when the worker was at that location, and the address of that location. Let's go back to the GPS setup to see what other options are available. We've used the worker to track, so we had selected a particular worker. We selected a start date and time, an end date and time. We also have a maximum number of samples and a min distance between samples. If when you display the GPS samples you find that there are too many to make sense of, you can limit the number of samples to a smaller number. You may have a situation where you have many GPS samples that are basically on top of each other. So down in the map you might see a lot of these samples all on top of each other, maybe just slightly different. This would indicate that the worker might be at his work site and his mobile app is reporting his location, but his location is really not changing. We have avoided that situation by choosing a min distance between samples of 2 miles. So any samples that are closer than 2 miles don't get displayed. If we had a much smaller value set for the min distance, we might have seen some of the overlap that I was talking about. So the smaller the min distance between samples that you choose, the more samples you'll probably see on the map and more overlapping that you might see. They might not be very interesting GPS samples because they're essentially showing you multiple samples for the same location. If you go with a much larger min distance, for example 8 miles, you'll probably see far fewer samples on the map. And an 8-mile min distance might be so large that you miss some important location information that would interest you. So I find that a 2-mile min distance is usually the best trade-off. It usually works best in most situations. And if you have any questions about how to operate the GPS tracking, click on the question mark, and you'll see an explanation for how to do the GPS tracking and how to set it up.